Chapter 1, The Curse of Noise. You talk too damn much. That's the confrontation that shakes the room. It isn't said with hate, but with clarity. With precision. And it hits harder than any insult. Because deep down, you know it's true. In this world of endless noise, where everyone's posting, venting, explaining, oversharing, you thought maybe your words would matter. That maybe, just maybe, if you explained enough, if you expressed enough, someone would understand you, someone would finally care. But they didn't. And they won't. Because noise is weakness. It's a cry for something you were never going to get from them. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The more we value things outside our control, the less control we have." And nothing proves this more than the desperate need to be heard by someone who has already tuned you out. You're speaking to a wall, but the echo feels like hope, so you keep going. You apologize to people who betrayed you. You try to reason with people who have no interest in understanding you. You beg for clarity from people who thrive on your confusion. And every word you spill is a wound that never heals. Modern psychology calls this a trauma loop. It's the cycle of revisiting a wound because you think talking about it will fix it. But Stoicism teaches the opposite. Not to suppress your pain, but to refuse to feed it with desperate noise. Epictetus said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." Yet in pain, we reverse this. We speak endlessly, and hear nothing. This video is your reckoning. A return to discipline. To silence. Because silence is where you reclaim your power. Are you ready to stop bleeding in public? Let's begin. Chapter 2, Rejection and Desperation. They already made their decision. Long before the argument. Long before the silence. Long before your trembling voice tried to explain everything. They chose to hurt you. To leave. To lie. To betray. And yet, here you are, still explaining. Still reaching out with words that only make you smaller in their eyes. Seneca once said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." In the same way, it's not rejection that humiliates you, it's the craving to be accepted again by someone who discarded you without hesitation. Desperation smells. And it lingers. When you try to justify yourself to someone who disrespected you, you're not seeking understanding, you're seeking validation. You want them to acknowledge your worth, but they won't. Because your worth terrifies them. The more you speak, the more you confirm their power over you. The Stoics warned against this loss of inner sovereignty. To depend emotionally on another's approval is to become their servant. Psychologists now call this external locus of control, a mindset where your sense of peace depends on how others treat you. It's a psychological trap that turns you into a puppet, dancing for the crumbs of their attention. But here's the brutal truth, those who mistreated you don't deserve your words. And every time you reach out, hoping for closure, hoping for a shred of decency, you're not healing. You're bleeding again. Real power? It begins the moment you stop explaining. Because nothing terrifies the person who wronged you more than your silence. They can twist your words. They can deny what you said. But your silence? They can't control that. And it haunts them. Chapter 3, Power in Silence. You disappear. No goodbye. No breakdown. No final message. And in that vanishing act, you become unforgettable. Silence is not passive. It's psychological warfare. You think people are haunted by screams? No. They're haunted by the silence that follows. The unanswered texts. The sudden calm. The absence where chaos once lived. When you stop speaking, they start thinking. When you stop chasing, they start doubting. And nothing is more punishing than the silence of someone who used to explain everything. The Stoic Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Silence is that principle in motion. It's refusing to waste another ounce of energy trying to convince someone of your worth. It's choosing dignity over drama. Modern science backs it. In therapy, we call it tactical withdrawal, stepping back to regain emotional control. It's not avoidance. It's power conservation. Because every word you withhold becomes armor. Every second of silence becomes a mirror in which they must face their own guilt, alone. Let's be clear, silence doesn't mean weakness. It means strategy. You aren't running. You're letting them run through their own regrets. You aren't cold. You're focused. You aren't done. You've simply evolved past the need to explain your transformation to people who caused your pain. This is how warriors move. Quietly. Decisively. They don't announce their evolution. They let the silence speak. And what it says is far louder than noise ever could. Chapter 4: Emotional Independence. There comes a moment when you stop asking, "Why did they do this to me?" and start asking, "Why did I let them?" That's the shift, from victim to sovereign. Emotional independence is not about pretending you don't care. It's about no longer needing anyone to care in order to function. It's reclaiming the throne of your own mind. Epictetus said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." Validation is one of those things. Every time you seek validation from someone who broke you, you surrender control. You hand them the keys to your emotional state, and they drive you straight into chaos. Again and again. But you can stop. Today. Psychologist Nathaniel Branden, a pioneer in self-esteem, once said that self-respect is the root of discipline. And self-respect begins when you realize you don't owe them a damn thing, not a text, not an apology, not an explanation for your silence. Let them sit in the absence of your energy. Let them guess why you disappeared. Let them fantasize about your pain, and never let them see it. Because here's the paradox, they don't fear your anger. They expect it. They feed on it. What truly terrifies them is your indifference. Indifference is cold. It's sharp. It's final. It means you've accepted reality, not because it's fair, but because it's done. You're no longer trying to be understood. You've moved beyond needing to be heard. That's not detachment. That's power. The kind that can't be touched. Chapter 5: Revenge through absence. You don't get even by proving your pain. You get even by becoming invisible. Real revenge isn't the dramatic monologue. It's not the emotional outburst. It's not the Instagram quote about cutting people off. That's noise, and they expect it. The Stoics never taught revenge through action. They taught victory through transcendence. Seneca wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. And your enemy wants attention. Validation. Evidence that they still matter to you. When you give them silence, you deny them that fuel. You become a ghost, not just in presence, but in their memory. Haunting every corner of their mind with the question they can't answer. What happened to them? Why did they just vanish? And that question will eat at them far longer than your words ever could. Your absence becomes the punishment. It forces them to confront the mirror, without your presence to blur the reflection. That's when regret sets in. That's when the what-ifs begin to echo. And that's when they start to miss something they thought they discarded for good. Modern psychology confirms this power. In breakups, it's called the reverse pull, where withdrawing completely triggers a cognitive dissonance. They expected drama. Instead, they're met with silence, and it destabilizes them. This is the revenge, not by making them see your pain, but by making them feel your absence. No closure. No explanation. Just the hollow echo of what they lost, and the certainty that they'll never get it back. Now you're not just gone. You're untouchable. Chapter 6: The Inner Transformation. Silence isn't just a punishment. It's a process. When the noise dies down, when the messages stop, the calls stop, the chaos stops, what remains is you, and the pain. That's when the real transformation begins. This is the phase most people run from. Because sitting in silence with your wounds feels unbearable. But it's necessary. Because that silence, that's the forge. That's where weakness burns away and resilience is born. Marcus Aurelius said, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke. So you sit with the betrayal, the abandonment, the shame. You don't escape it. You observe it. And slowly, you begin to master it. Psychologists call this radical acceptance. It's the power of facing brutal reality without resistance. You stop asking why they hurt you. You stop needing a reason. You accept that it happened, and now, it's up to you to decide what comes next. You start to build. In solitude, your mind sharpens. In discipline, your soul strengthens. You become colder, not cruel, but precise. You become sharper, not hostile, but unbreakable. You become unrecognizable, not to the world, but to the version of you that once begged for love from people who treated it like a burden. This is the death of the dependent self. And the birth of the Stoic. You don't just survive the silence. You evolve inside it. Chapter 7, Embracing Solitude. Solitude isn't loneliness. It's rebirth. The world taught you to fear being alone. To equate stillness with sadness. To believe that healing only comes when someone else finally understands your pain. But that's a lie, one that's kept men weak for centuries. The truth? Solitude is the crucible. The sacred ground where you kill the soft, needy version of yourself, the one that craved attention, that feared rejection, that lived for validation. Epictetus taught, no man is free who is not master of himself. And you can't master yourself if you're still asking others to soothe your wounds. You have to go dark. Cut the noise. Not for drama, but for clarity. This is the silence where transformation happens. There's no applause. No comfort. Just you, your thoughts, and the echoes of who you used to be. You wake up early. You train. You study. You work. You hold yourself accountable, not because someone's watching, but because you've made a vow to become someone no one can break again. Modern psychology calls this self-directed resilience. It's the ability to rebuild your inner world without external scaffolding. That takes strength. Masculine strength. The kind that's forged in discipline, not affection. In stillness, not noise. Because healing doesn't come from another chance. It comes from self-respect. It comes when you stop looking for a rescue, and start becoming your own redeemer. Pain is part of it. But pain is the price of evolution. And on the other side of that pain, a version of you that answers to no one. Chapter 8, Strategic Silence. The most dangerous men in history didn't rant. They didn't beg. They didn't explain. They moved in silence. Julius Caesar crossed the Rubicon without a speech. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire with quiet discipline. Miyamoto Musashi, undefeated samurai, said little, because when your presence is undeniable, your voice becomes unnecessary. This is the path, not to become louder, but to become more precise. More deliberate. More silent. He who does not know how to be silent will never know how to speak, said the Stoic philosopher Cato. Strategic silence isn't passivity. It's psychological control. It's what Navy SEALs train for, operating under pressure without reaction, without wasted breath, without emotional noise. Every move measured. Every word earned. In the modern world, this silence is your power. You're not ghosting. You're training. You're not avoiding. You're upgrading. Every unspoken word is stored energy. And when the time comes to act, not speak, but act, you will move with such clarity, they'll wonder how you did it without warning. That's because people don't change from being told. They change from consequences. You don't need to scream to teach them. Your silence is the consequence. It says, you no longer have access to me. And that hits harder than any comeback. Because the world is addicted to noise. But you're learning to weaponize the absence of it. That's where your legend begins. Chapter 9, The Cost of Growth. Growth has a price, and silence is the down payment. You're going to lose people. People you laughed with. Slept with. Trusted. You'll lose parts of yourself too, the soft parts, the naive parts, the parts that believed love wins, no matter what. But love doesn't always win. Discipline does. Seneca said, difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body. What he didn't say, but knew, is that strength costs. And it's paid for in solitude, heartbreak, and ruthless self-honesty. You'll feel the pain of detachment. You'll miss them. You'll want to break the silence. But you won't. Because you understand now, breaking the silence for comfort is like setting fire to your fortress just to feel warm. You can't afford to go back. Growth isn't glamorous. It's brutal. It strips you down, burns away the weakness, and forges a version of you that others won't recognize, and some won't even like. But that's the point. You didn't come here to be liked. You came here to become untouchable. Modern neuroscience shows that pain rewires the brain, but only if you face it. If you sit with it. If you stop numbing it and start learning from it. And when you do, the silence becomes sacred. The solitude becomes strength. And what once felt like punishment, becomes preparation. For a life where no one holds the pen to your story but you. Chapter 10, Final Phase, Becoming the Ghost. You don't walk away to make a point. You walk away because there's nothing left to say. And in that departure, without theatrics, without final words, you become something they can't define. Can't reach. Can't undo. You become the ghost. Not the kind that fades. The kind that lingers. The kind that shows up not in words, but in regrets. In memories. In questions that will never be answered. They'll wonder what you're thinking. Who you're with. What you're building. But you'll never tell them. Because the final evolution of a disciplined man isn't loud, it's surgical. Marcus Aurelius wrote, the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. And being unlike them means refusing to seek closure, refusing to deliver explanations, refusing to validate the pain they caused with a reaction. You're not cold, you've just learned that not everyone deserves access to your warmth. They'll rewrite the story, of course. Say you vanished. Say you didn't care. Say you were cruel. Let them. You're not here to correct the narrative. You're here to become the version of yourself that no longer needs to be explained. And when they realize that the door is permanently closed, it will be too late. You'll already be gone. Not hiding. Evolving. Chapter 11, Emotional Discipline and Dignity. You don't win by reacting. You win by refusing to be baited. There's a moment, after the pain, after the silence, when the bait comes. A message. A comment. A subtle insult meant to pull you back into the chaos. Don't take it. Not because you're weak. But because you've outgrown the game. Epictetus taught, if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. This is the heart of Stoicism, not avoiding emotion, but mastering it. Emotional discipline is the highest form of power. And nothing screams strength louder than a man who chooses silence when provoked. You want to scream? Don't. You want to post something passive-aggressive? Resist. You want to show them how much better you're doing without them. Don't waste your breath. They don't deserve your noise. They forfeited that privilege when they betrayed you. Let them wonder. Let them invent stories. Let them spiral in their assumptions. Your dignity doesn't need an audience. Modern psychology calls this emotional detachment. It's the art of separating your actions from your impulses. It's a key trait of high-performance individuals, people who win not through emotion, but through execution. So you execute. On your goals. On your healing. On your evolution. You channel every ounce of hurt into discipline. Every flash of anger into work. Every memory into motivation. Because silence is not just a weapon. It's the foundation of your empire. Chapter 12, Rewriting Your Story Without Them. They will say you were cold. That you abandoned them. That your silence was cruel. Let them. Because the people who lie about you are the ones who lost access to the version of you they could manipulate. And now, they're writing fiction to fill the silence you left behind. You don't correct lies with words. You correct them with success. Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. That's Marcus Aurelius, Stoicism at its core. This isn't about revenge. It's about redirection. You take everything they tried to break, and you use it to build. Quietly. Relentlessly. Strategically. They thought your silence was weakness. But it was design. Every day you don't respond, you grow stronger. Every rumor they spread sharpens your focus. Every false version of you they invent, pushes you further into the truth of who you're becoming. And here's the truth, you don't need to rewrite the story they're telling. You just need to live the one they can't touch. In modern psychology, this is called self-authorship, the ability to define your identity not by what's happened to you, but by who you decide to become. That decision starts in silence. Not the silence of defeat. But the silence of a man who is done talking, and ready to build something no one can tear down. Let them talk. You're already moving beyond their reach. Chapter 13, Legacy and Resurrection. You don't come back the same. If you do, you wasted the pain. This silence, the exile, the detachment, the cutting off, isn't the end of you. It's the death before the resurrection. The fire that burns away the version of you that could be used, abandoned, or broken. And when you rise again, you don't beg to be seen. You dominate. Because you didn't heal for closure. You healed for power. Seneca wrote, "As is a tale, so is life, not how long it is, but how good it is what matters." It's not the length of your silence that counts, it's what you build inside of it. Who you become. You're not here to be understood. You're not here to justify your silence. You're here to reshape your destiny without permission. No more noise. No more apologies. No more softness for people who used your vulnerability as a weapon. From this silence, a new version of you is born. Stronger. Sharper. Calmer. More dangerous. People will feel it when you walk into the room. They won't know what changed. But they'll know they can't touch you the way they once could. This is your resurrection. You rebuild in silence. Or you rot in noise. The choice is yours. Silence is control. Silence is not retreat. It is not surrender. It is the highest form of control a man can possess. Not the silence of cowardice, but the silence of clarity. Of strength. Of emotional self-command. When you stop explaining. When you stop defending. When you stop reacting. You become something rare in a world full of noise, a man no one can manipulate. You stop needing validation. You stop fearing rejection. You stop chasing ghosts. Because you've realized that power doesn't scream. Power doesn't explain. Power doesn't ask permission. Power just moves. Marcus Aurelius didn't ask to be respected, he simply lived with such integrity that he couldn't be ignored. You now understand, the world will provoke you to speak, to break, to give them your energy. Don't. Hold your ground. Hold your silence. Hold your purpose. Let them wonder what you're thinking. Let them question your peace. Let them drown in their own guilt while you rise in your own greatness. You don't need revenge. You need elevation. So walk on. Quietly. Unapologetically. Unstoppably. If this message hit you where it matters, it's because deep down, you've been too generous with your noise. Too available to people who never deserved your energy. That ends now. Comment below, I choose silence. Let the world know that your healing has begun, not through words, but through control. Subscribe for more content that cuts through the lies and leads you back to power. Share this video with a brother who's been broken. Let him hear the silence that changed your life. And remember this. Your strength is not in what you say, it's in what you no longer need to say. Now disappear. And rebuild. In silence.